Last Tuesday, I spent 4 hours lying in bed watching YouTube videos about a guy restoring an old Nintendo 64, and I felt like a piece of garbage about it. Like I just committed some kind of crime against myself. And this video is not an excuse saying it's okay to be lazy. It's not. It's not okay to be lazy. Because this isn't about giving yourself permission to do nothing forever. It's about setting realistic expectations on your own life and understanding that resting is not a sin. And for that reason, I think it's important to talk about what made it that way. And actually, we all know how it goes. It's the typical perfect routine. Wake up at 5 a.m., then go and have a cold shower, then somehow find some time to journal. After that, you're supposed to meditate, hit the gym, and also work in your side hustle before even going into your 9 to 5. After you come home, you're expected to learn a new skill aside from everything you've done in the day. And the worst part is that you aren't even safe in your own sleep because narratives keep pushing the idea that you need to be generating income even while you sleep, and then repeat this until you are dead or rich. And if you're not doing all of that, you're supposedly falling behind. You're wasting your potential, or you're going to be 30 years old, broke, and full of regret. That's the kind of message that is being drilled into Gen Z minds right now, because young people are naive enough to think that you can make $10,000 a month with just an hour a day. And technically, you can, but being someone with no experience making money, it's really unrealistic. You would need a lot of luck for that. The funny part is that the only thing that's actually working is making people feel guilty about resting. That's actually going beautifully, with people buying courses from gurus trying to make just $100 a month more. And the part that's concerning is that 72% of Gen Z workers right now experience at least one symptom of burnout. Remember, I'm talking about young kids, 20 years old. I'm not talking about middle-aged people with mortgages or kids. Right now, people with a small amount of responsibility are feeling drained. And this feeling always used to come to a generation, but never has it happened so early. And to be honest, it's not just about work. It's some kind of pressure to have your entire life planned before you're old enough to even rent a car. And this is not something I'm saying just for content. I can see it on my friends. They're 18, 19 years old, and they're picking degrees like they're picking a life sentence. Not because they're very long to complete, but because they're choosing careers that make money, even though they don't even like the subject they're studying on. And this usually happens because someone told them that this career path leads to a good job, or whatever that means anymore. The problem is that people regret going to college, not because of the experience and memories you got there, but because they wish they'd pick something else. I see guys picking business or finance not because they care about balance sheets, but because their parents said, "You'll always have a job." And then they sit in lectures looking like they'd rather be anywhere else on earth. But they won't switch because switching feels like failing. And failing feels like the worst thing you can possibly do when you've been told since you were 15 that you need to be building something. So I know this sounds weird coming from someone who just started their adult life, but I think that the entire guilt that we feel is not natural because it's not something our grandparents dealt with. I've observed that it comes from an internet economy that profits from making you feel like you're never doing enough. Every productivity YouTuber, every day in the life of a CEO, every fake guru selling a course on passive income, they all need the same thing from you. They need you to feel behind, because if you didn't, you wouldn't buy their course. And I'm not saying that courses are bad. They're pretty great when the emotion that's driving the sales is not guilt. Because if you felt like your life was fine, you wouldn't click on how I made 10k in my first month at 2 in the morning while you're supposed to be sleeping. They only make money when you feel bad about yourself. That's it. And to be honest, I fall for this too. I'll be lying in bed in the evening, actually relaxing, and I'll see a reel about a 20-year-old saying how he wakes up at 4:30 a.m. and then he makes 6 figures a day. And suddenly I feel like I'm wasting my life. And even though 5 minutes ago I felt completely fine, and even though I know most of those videos are fake, I still feel that. That's how deep this goes, because it bypasses your logic completely and just hits you in the chest. We've confused two different things and it's ruining us, because there is a real difference between rest and rotting, and we need to stop pretending they're the same. Rest is lying on a bed on a Sunday because your brain is fried from a week of lectures and assignments, going for a walk while listening to a podcast, or even watching a stupid video because you deserve it. You've been working for the whole week and maybe you are not rich yet, but you have done your part. It's okay to do nothing productive for a few hours and not feel guilty about it. Rod is watching TikTok for 4 hours and not even remembering what you watched 5 videos ago. It's also skipping class because you've lost your ability to wake up at the time you should just because you're lazy. You need to understand that excessive doom scrolling, it's not something normal. It is a coping mechanism. And the worst part is that we tell ourselves it's rest. It's just a different kind of exhaustion. By the way, I'm guilty of both. I've had days that were genuine rest, and I've had days that were just me hiding from my own life. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference in the moment. The only way to figure it out is because rest fills you back up, but rot leaves you completely empty, even emptier than when you supposedly started resting. And I know some of you are thinking, okay, cool, but some people actually do need to grind, and some people don't have the luxury of taking breaks. And you're right, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that hard work doesn't matter. It matters a lot. My parents worked hard, and their parents also worked hard. And there are people in situations where rest isn't an option, and I'm not talking to them because they already know what work means. They don't need a YouTube video about it. I'm talking to people like me, the young adults or teenagers who have been so soaked in the hustle content that they feel guilty watching a movie on a Friday night. The ones who can't enjoy a weekend without a voice in their head telling them, you should be doing something productive right now. Because that's not ambition, that's anxiety. But you're being told that it's the same thing. And my other contrarian take is about discipline. I agree. Discipline matters, and showing up every day matters, and showing up consistently matters, because constant effort over time is the only thing that actually works for anything. And I believe that, but discipline without rest isn't discipline, it's just self-punishment. You wouldn't run a marathon by sprinting for 26 miles straight. You'd collapse. Then why are you doing that in your own life? Because that's essentially what hustle culture is asking you to do with your entire life, to sprint forever. And if you slow down, you're weak. I need you to understand that the thing I am talking about in this video is feeling you're falling behind in a race you never signed up for. And I'm making this video because I feel like I'm not the only one that feels like this. So what I'm trying to do in my life may sound unimpressive for you, but that's kind of the point. I'm trying to only allow myself to rest if I can do it without my phone, because I noticed that when I rest with my phone, it's never actually rest. It's just 30 minutes of watching someone else's highlight reel while wondering if I could ever achieve that. But when I just lie there without no distractions, maybe sit somewhere quiet, the guilt fades. It fades because there is nothing feeding it anymore. And the other thing I'm doing is giving myself permission to not have my whole life figured out at a young age. And that sounds obvious when I say it out loud, but when every algorithm is showing you 20-year-old millionaires and what I wish I knew at your age content, it doesn't feel obvious. It feels urgent, like you're already late when you haven't even started your own life. And you're not. I promise you, you're not. The biggest regrets of people are not pursuing the life they actually wanted, not caring about the relationships that actually matter, working too hard for things that didn't even help them later in life. Because imagine spending your whole life grinding, optimizing, hustling, and then at the very end wishing you just sat still more often, wishing to have wasted more days laughing with your friends. And to end this video, I want to clear something up. I'm not saying don't work. Obviously work, build skills, do all of that, but do it because it matters to you. Not because some guy on TikTok made you feel like a loser for sleeping in on a Saturday. Please do it at a pace where you actually feel like a person when you're doing it, and not like a slave. Because none of these gurus are going to be there when you're burnt out at 23 years old, wondering where your energy and free time went. But you only get one shot at being young, and I'd rather be a well-rested person who who built something meaningful over 10 years than a burned out shell who hustled through his 20s and can't even remember any of it. And honestly, some of my best days I've had recently were days where I did absolutely nothing. I just didn't realize it at the time because I was too busy having fun to feel guilty about it. And if you've ever felt guilty about resting, like genuinely ashamed of yourself for just existing without being productive, I want to know about it. Tell me in the comments what you were doing when the guilt hit you. I'm curious whether this is just me or whether this is way bigger than I think. I'll see you in the next one. Please take care of yourselves.